Have you noticed how the heaviest weight we carry isn't always in our joints or our back, but somewhere deeper, in the chest? Many of us have spent years collecting small and large worries, concerns about health, the silence of the house when evening comes, old conversations that were never finished. These things do not show up on medical charts, yet they press on the heart like invisible stones. Tonight, I want to invite you to set a few of them down. Stay with me as we walk slowly through 7 Buddhist lessons for this season of life. Each one is a lantern for the path, helping your heart feel lighter and your body ready for rest. If this message already stirs a little calm in you, share where you are listening from. It helps our quiet community grow. Many people spend decades chasing after happiness, only to find themselves emptier. But Buddhism teaches that peace is not gained by holding tighter, it is discovered by loosening, by letting go. So, let us begin gently with the first lesson, the reminder that learning and wonder do not belong only to the young. Even now, your mind can still bloom. There is a quiet myth that often settles over us as we grow older, almost like a thin veil we don't even notice draped across our days. It is the belief that learning belongs to the young, and that after 60, 70, or 80, our task is simply to endure what remains of life, not to explore it. This myth is heavy, not because it is loud, but because it whispers so persistently. It says, "You've seen enough, you've done enough. Now, sit still. Don't expect much more." And the danger of that whisper is not just that it limits what we do, but that it shrinks the light of wonder that keeps the spirit alive. In Buddhism, there is a teaching called Shoshin, the beginner's mind. It reminds us that the moment we think we know everything, curiosity closes, and with it, the possibility of fresh discovery. The beginner's mind, on the other hand, is wide and open. It is not concerned with age, but with presence. Even at 80, a beginner's mind can look at the morning sky and feel awe. It can taste a new flavor and feel delight. It can sit with a question and enjoy not knowing. I once met a woman in her 70s who decided to learn the violin. Her children thought it was impractical. Her friends told her it was too late to start. But she smiled, lifted the bow with shaky hands, and played her first note. It was not beautiful. It squeaked, cracked, and faded almost immediately. Yet her eyes lit up as if she had discovered a new world. That first sound was enough to open something in her heart. Over time, she grew steadier, and the notes blended together. But the real transformation was not in the music, it was in her spirit. She no longer felt like her days were only about remembering the past. She began to feel they could still hold new beginnings. This is the medicine of curiosity. It does not have to be grand or impressive. For someone over 60, it could be as simple as learning the names of the birds that visit your garden. It could be opening a book of poetry and letting the words ripple through your mind like water over stone. It could be tasting a fruit you have never eaten, or trying a gentle Tai Chi movement with neighbors in the park. These small beginnings are not trivial. They are ways of reminding the heart that life is not finished with us yet. The lotus, one of Buddhism's most beloved symbols, offers us a beautiful picture of this. The flower does not bloom in clean, perfect water. It blooms in the mud. Out of murky depth rises something luminous, unfolding petal by petal toward the sunday. In the same way, curiosity can bloom from the mud of our daily lives, no matter our age. Even after illness, loss, or disappointment, we can rise again in wonder. For older adults, curiosity is more than entertainment, it is protection. Research shows that staying open to learning can sharpen the mind, soften loneliness, and even reduce stress. But beyond science, it nourishes the soul. It gives you stories to share, questions to ask, and reasons to smile when you wake up in the morning. And in a deeper sense, it teaches humility. Because when we learn, we admit that the world is larger than we thought. That humility is not a weakness, it is freedom. So, I invite you to ask, when was the last time you tried something new, not because it was practical, but simply because it stirred your spirit? What might open for you if you allowed yourself to be a beginner again? Perhaps tonight, you can choose one tiny act of discovery. Write down a word in a language you don't know. Sketch a leaf. Hum a tune you've never sung. Let that small act remind you that the horizon of life is still wide, still full of light. And as we open this door of curiosity, another question arises. What about the people we allow to walk beside us on this path? For wonder to thrive, peace must have space to grow. And sometimes that means gently releasing relationships that no longer honor our heart. As the years pass, many of us find that what we crave most is not excitement or noise, but peace. Not the kind of peace that comes only from silence in the room, but the deeper peace that settles into the chest like a calm tide. Yet strangely, some of the very people closest to us can disturb that peace. A phone call that ends with criticism, a family dinner that leaves us exhausted, a friendship that has turned into a constant drain. And often, because we love, or because we feel duty, we tell ourselves to endure. Buddhism offers us another way. The Buddha taught that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent to throw it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. But sometimes the burning isn't from our own anger. It's from remaining in the presence of people who feed negativity into us again and again. The compassionate path is not to hate them, nor to retaliate, but to recognize with clarity. This interaction does not honor my peace. I once spoke with an elder woman who attended weekly dinners with her son. Each meal ended in tears. He criticized her choices, dismissed her feelings, and left her heart bruised. Yet she continued, week after week, believing that loyalty required her to accept pain. One day, she chose differently. Instead of dinner, she brewed jasmine tea on her porch, listening to the evening breeze. Later, she whispered, "For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe." That moment was not rebellion, it was wisdom. To protect your peace is not to reject love. It is to protect the soil in which love can grow. When a bamboo stalk falls, the tree does not mourn, it simply continues to grow. In the same way, relationships that harm us may fall away, and that space can allow compassion to bloom again, either for ourselves or for others who meet us with gentleness. This practice is especially important in later life. Our energy is more precious. Our days are fewer. Why spend them bracing against storms that do not need to be weathered? Compassionate boundaries are a form of kindness to yourself first, and also to the other, because they are no longer given the chance to harm. What might this look like in daily life? It could mean limiting the length of visits with a relative who always stirs conflict. It could mean declining certain invitations that leave you feeling drained, and instead choosing to meet someone in a way that feels lighter and more spacious. It could even mean writing a letter you never send, simply to release the burden of unsaid words. If you feel guilty, remember this: true love never requires the sacrifice of your inner light. To let go of a toxic tie is not cold, it is wise stewardship of your heart. And when you protect your heart, you also protect your ability to show up in kindness for those who do nourish your life. So ask gently, who in my circle supports my peace? Who unsettles it? What might change if I allowed myself to choose more carefully whose voices I invite into my days? As you reflect on this, notice how peace isn't only disturbed by people. Sometimes it is suffocated by things, closets full of memories, drawers packed with reminders we no longer need, stories we keep retelling in our minds. And so the next step in our journey is to discover the freedom of clearing space, both inside and out. Have you ever opened an old drawer or box and felt a wave of heaviness wash over you, not from the weight of the objects themselves, but from the memories and emotions they carried? A stack of letters never reread, a jacket that belonged to someone long gone, photographs kept not because they bring joy, but because you are afraid that letting them go will erase the person they represent. Clutter is not just physical. It is emotional, spiritual, and mental. And with time, the piles grow on shelves, in attics, and inside the heart. In Buddhist teaching, attachment is often described as the very root of suffering. Not because objects are bad, but because we bind our identity and peace to them. The Buddha once said, "Let go of the past, let go of the future, let go of the present, and cross over to the farther shore of existence." This doesn't mean abandoning all you own. It means loosening the grip on what no longer serves, so you can walk more freely. I once met a woman who had kept every pair of her late husband's shoes for over a decade. Each time she looked at them, grief surged like a tide. She feared that discarding them would be like discarding him. A monk gently asked her to hold an apple in one hand. Then he offered her another. "Can you hold this too?" She shook her head. "Then how can you receive peace if your hands are already full?" The message was clear. Releasing objects is not erasing memory. It is creating space to hold something new. When you clear a drawer, you are not throwing away history. You are honoring the fact that memories live in you, not in dust. When you give away a piece of clothing, you are not giving away love. You are making space for your spirit to move again. And when you choose to release mental clutter, the old resentments, the repeated narratives, you invite clarity into your thoughts. Practical steps can be small and gentle. You do not need to empty the attic in one day. Begin with one shelf, one box, one corner. Ask yourself, does this object nourish me or does it weigh me down? Keep what lights your heart. Release what clouds it. The same principle applies to emotional clutter. Notice the stories you tell yourself over and over. Are they still true? Are they still helpful? If not, perhaps it is time to set them down. Clearing is not only about subtraction, it is also about addition, making space for breath, light, and possibility. An elder I knew once downsized from a large home to a small cottage. When asked if he missed all the things he had let go, he smiled and said, "Number. Now, when I wake, I see the sunlight on the floor, not the dust on the shelves." That sunlight was always there. He had simply made space to see it. So, pause and reflect. What single object could you release this week? What story could you rewrite? What mental loop could you stop feeding? Each release is like placing a stone down by the riverbank. Slowly, the load lightens, and the water of life begins to flow again. And yet, even as we free ourselves from clutter, there remains another challenge that presses heavily on many hearts: the fear of aging itself. Wrinkles in the mirror, slower steps, changing health. These shifts can stir anxiety, but Buddhism teaches us that impermanence is not a curse, but a doorway. Let us walk through it together. There comes a quiet moment in life when you catch your reflection and hesitate, your face softer, your shoulders stooped, your hands perhaps trembling. The body you know so well feels altered, as though time has been quietly carving its marks while you were busy living. For many, this recognition brings fear. Fear of fading, of losing relevance, of being left behind. Modern society fuels this fear, whispering that aging is decline, that wrinkles mean loss, that slowness equals disappearance. but Buddhism invites us to see differently. The teaching of anicca, impermanence, reminds us that change is the nature of all things. To resist it is to suffer. To accept it is to be free. The Buddha once said, "Decay is inherent in all compounded things. Work out your liberation with diligence." Aging is not a flaw in the system, it is the system itself. Just as a flower blooms, fades, and returns to the soil, so too does our body transform, returning to the great rhythm of life. There is a Zen story of an aging master once admired for his presence and vitality. As he grew frail, a young monk asked, "Does it make you sad to lose your strength?" The master placed a hand over his heart and said, "The body is a lantern. The oil runs low, the flame flickers. But do you not still see the light?" His students realized that his radiance had never come from muscle or youth. It came from his spirit, which only grew brighter with acceptance. In later years, impermanence becomes not just a truth to understand, but a teacher to embrace. It reveals to us what matters. The rush to achieve softens into contentment. The need to be admired gives way to the joy of simply witnessing. The fear of being overlooked is replaced by gratitude for being alive at all. I recall meeting a woman named Joy, fittingly at the age of 89. She told me, "I used to dread aging. Now I wear my wrinkles like prayer beads. Each one reminds me I have lived long enough to laugh, to love, to weep, and to survive what I thought I could not." Her face shone not despite her years, but because of them. When you look at your own aging, what if you shifted the question from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "What is life revealing through me now?" Your body may move slower, but your presence can be deeper. Your eyes may grow dimmer, yet your vision may grow clearer. The very changes you resist can become guides towards stillness, wisdom, and compassion. Aging, then, is not closing doors, it is opening new ones. It is an invitation to live in alignment with what is real, not with what fades. When we stop fighting impermanence, life becomes tender. Each moment glows brighter because we know it cannot last. Each breath is precious because it is unique. And yet, even as we learn to embrace the flow of time, many of us still wait for happiness to arrive from outside, from children, partners, or friends who we believe should fill our emptiness. But Buddhism teaches that joy is never delivered by another. It is something we cultivate ourselves, with our own two hands. That is where we will turn next. There is a particular ache that often comes in the later chapters of life. It is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it arrives in the stillness of the afternoon, when the phone does not ring, when the mailbox is empty, when no one asks how your day has been. In those moments, it is easy to think, "Why hasn't anyone come for me? Why hasn't someone filled this quiet space inside?" It is a very human thought, tender and familiar. Yet if we stay with it too long, it can quietly convince us of a lie that our happiness depends on others noticing us, inviting us, saving us. Buddhism turns this belief on its head. The Buddha taught, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can, and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." At first, this truth may sound lonely, even harsh, but in fact, it is liberating. It frees us from waiting at the door of someone else's house, hoping to be welcomed. It places the key back into our own hand, reminding us that we can open the door ourselves. I once knew a man named Raymond, 78 years old, who lost his wife and watched his children move across the country. For months, he sat in his silent house, waiting for visits that rarely came. "I thought I'd matter more," he confessed. But one day, something shifted. He stopped waiting for permission to live again. He began with a simple walk around the block. Then he took a watercolor class. Later, he volunteered at the local library, reading stories to children. Slowly, he built a new rhythm, not by being chosen, but by choosing himself. His words still echo. I thought I was too old to start. It turns out I was just tired of waiting. Happiness is not a gift that arrives on someone else's schedule. It is a practice built breath by breath, choice by choice. For someone in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, this might mean planting flowers on a windowsill, joining a Tai Chi group, learning to sketch, or simply sitting under a tree and letting the light fall gently on your face. The point is not performance, it is presence. When we stop waiting to be invited and instead create our own invitations, life becomes lighter. A small act of courage, a class, a phone call, a walk, can open a floodgate of joy. And more than that, it dissolves the quiet resentment that grows when we expect others to fill our emptiness. Instead of, why haven't they come for me? The question becomes, what beauty can I create for myself today? To live this way does not mean we close the door to others. It means we stop handing them the key to our well-being. Relationships become sweeter when they are not burdened with the responsibility of making us whole. We come to others already alive, already nourished, already enough. So I invite you to reflect. What have you been waiting for someone else to give you love, attention, appreciation that you could begin giving yourself? What would it feel like to stop standing at the locked gate and instead notice that the key has always been in your pocket? As soon as we begin to take that responsibility, another heavy weight begins to loosen. The constant comparison with our younger self, the me who was faster, firmer, admired, starts to lose its grip. And that is the next lesson we will explore: the freedom of ending the war with our own past. Comparison has a way of sneaking into our days without warning. It can happen when you see an old photo, when you notice a younger person jogging with ease, or when you hear a confident voice that reminds you of the boldness you once carried. A whisper arises. I used to be like that. Where did that version of me go? Left unchecked, that whisper grows into a wound. You begin to measure the present by the ruler of the past, and somehow, the present always comes up short. Buddhism teaches that comparison is a subtle form of suffering because it draws us away from reality. Instead of being with what is, we live in tension with what was. The Buddha's wisdom points us back to clarity. Peace does not come from wishing to be another, whether younger, faster, or stronger. Peace comes from dwelling fully in this moment, as it island. There is a beloved parable of a teacher guiding a young disciple to a mountain spring. The teacher asked the disciple to fill a bowl with water, then drop a stone into it. Ripples distorted the reflection. "What do you see?" the teacher asked. "Nothing clearly," the boy replied. Then the teacher led him to a deep, still well. "Now look." The disciple gazed down. "I see my reflection," he whispered. The teacher smiled. Youth is like the rushing stream, easily disturbed. Age is like the well, clear, still, revealing. In this story lies a truth for all of us in later life. The self we once were, full of speed and ambition, did not yet have the depth we now carry. The younger body could not have survived what we have endured. The younger heart did not yet hold the compassion we have cultivated. The well of age is not a lesser water. It is simply a different one, quieter but more profound. I once met a woman named Teresa, 84 years old, who used to attend her granddaughter's dance recitals. She loved the performances, yet found herself aching with comparison. "I was measuring her movements against what mine used to be," she admitted. Her joy became my sadness. So she chose to step back until she could watch again, not with envy but with love. When she returned, she told me. For the first time, I applauded without thinking of myself. I just saw her shine. That is wisdom. To witness beauty in another without turning it into your own wound. When you catch yourself comparing, try a different practice. Instead of asking, "Why am I not who I was?" ask, "What does this moment reveal that my younger self could never have known?" Notice the patience you've cultivated, the resilience that carries you, the softness that allows you to forgive. These qualities are not visible in photographs, but they are the very fabric of who you are today. So pause and gently tell yourself, "I bless who I was, and I befriend who I am." Allow the past to be honored, not worshipped. Allow the present to be enough. And as this comparison softens, another doorway opens. Beneath the layers of memory often lies a deeper weight, the regrets we carry quietly, the mistakes and missed chances we replay in the silence of night. To walk more freely, we must turn toward forgiveness, especially the forgiveness of ourselves. In the stillness of night, when the house is silent and the world has settled, certain memories often rise. They may be words we wish we had spoken, paths we wish we had taken, or silences we regret keeping too long. These moments do not always scream. They linger like faint echoes, shaping the way we carry ourselves. They color our laughter, dim our celebrations, and leave us feeling as though some part of us does not deserve joy. For many older adults, this hidden weight of regret is heavier than any physical ache. Buddhism offers us a profound truth here. Compassion must begin with ourselves. The Buddha once said, "You can search the whole universe and not find anyone more deserving of your love than yourself. That includes your younger self, the one who made mistakes out of fear, ignorance, or pride. To forgive is not to erase those moments, but to meet them with gentleness, to say, 'I did the best I could with what I knew then. Now, I choose to live wiser, freer.'" There is a Buddhist story of a woman named Kama, who lived her early life in vanity and pride. When she met the Buddha in her later years, she confessed with tears, "I have wasted my life. What wisdom could exist for someone like me?" The Buddha replied, "Just as the ocean receives all rivers, whether muddy or clear, so too can wisdom receive even a life once misguided." Kama became one of his wisest disciples. Her past was not her prison, it became the soil for her transformation. I once sat with an elderly man named Paul, who had not spoken to his brother in over 30 years. He whispered, "Because I was the one who hurt him, I decided I didn't deserve the relationship anymore." Yet as time passed, the burden grew too heavy. With trembling hands, Paul finally wrote a letter not asking for forgiveness, but offering it to himself. "I have carried this long enough," he wrote. "I release it not because it didn't matter, but because I want to live the rest of my life free." Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is remembering without poison. It is allowing scars to remain but no longer letting them dictate how we walk. When we forgive ourselves, we open our hands to possibility. We allow new joy to enter because our grip on the past finally loosens. If you find yourself replaying an old scene, try this. Place your hand on your heart and speak kindly to that younger self. Tell them, "I understand. I forgive you. Thank you for carrying me here." In doing so, you transform regret into wisdom and guilt into freedom. And once we taste that freedom, something even greater becomes possible. We begin to see that life is not over, not even close. The idea that it is too late begins to dissolve, and we discover that the present moment still holds endless beginnings. That is the final illusion to release the lie that your time has passed. As we come to the close of this journey, let us pause and look gently back over the path we have walked together. We began with the reminder of the beginner's mind, the courage to remain open and curious no matter our age. We stepped into the wisdom of kind boundaries, protecting the peace that allows compassion to grow. We cleared space both in our homes and in our hearts, discovering that outer order creates inner quiet. We faced impermanence and aging not as an enemy, but as a lantern, revealing a deeper light within us. We remembered to turn the key from the inside, no longer waiting for others to deliver our joy. We loosened the habit of comparing ourselves to younger versions, and instead blessed who we were while befriending who we are. Finally, we touched the deep work of forgiveness, learning to release regret and begin again, even now. And so, the single truth that binds these lessons is this: letting go is not loss. It is returning to the light that has always been yours. Take a slow, gentle breath. Place your hand softly on your chest. With each exhale, imagine a lantern glowing within your heart, its warmth spreading through your body, softening the places that still hold tight. Each breath is a reminder that peace is already here, waiting for you. Which of these lessons touched you most? Share in the comments so we can grow together.